I think it's so important because there is still a big gap between, communities and institutions like, let's say, for instance, SAPS, South African Police Service, where we are still not taken serious when you say, like, we report hate crimes or incidents of violence and those things. But I also just want to add that there's no shame in seeking help. There's no shame in reaching out to, a psychologist or a counselor or anything like that to assist you on this journey. I think a lot of the times when individuals are rejected, it feels like your whole world is crumbling apart. You have nowhere to turn. You feel like you're isolated. There's nobody who can understand you. There's nobody who wants to help you. So there's always help out there. And I think that the sad part about this is most of the time it ends in suicide. Whereas if somebody just, put out a helping hand, a precious life could have been saved from being lost.
And also to know that there are various forms and systems and, programs and like you're saying, research being done to try and bridge the gap so that it doesn't, because it's still very mind-boggling to me that in this day and age, these are still the problems that we are dealt and faced with on a daily basis as the community. And you're saying, speaking to all your friends and listening, you were like, this is bizarre. It sounds like we're in the 80s, But it's so real. And I think this is why these programs that you are doing and this research that you are doing is so important, because the answers need to be found.
And it's very heartwarming for me that it's someone who considers themselves and prides themselves on being an ally to the community, that really wants to make a change in a community.
So will you stay in the field post your research?
Yes, definitely will stay. Because also with this organization that we are running in Tembisa, we're looking at running it in different other communities.
Oh, I love that. I want to end off this episode and ask you, you've obviously seen a lot of good come from your research. You've obviously seen a lot of bad from your research. But what advice would you give to someone who has been rejected from their families and their loved ones and their friends? Someone who is considering to come out, in inverted commas, and be truthful about who they are, and then also to the receiving families of an individual who wants to come out.
All right. The important thing is self-acceptance. Even if you are rejected, don't change who you are and do seek help. There are many organizations. Build your social support. Make sure that you have informational supports, where you can get the information, where you can get the help to deal with the rejection. And also don't stop reaching out to your family that rejected you, so that you educate them of the different sexual orientations, and eventually they'll accept you.
It's so good for me to hear that you actually take the time to sift through these stories about putting content out there that is progressive and does educate and wants to leave a positive message out there. Because I think a lot of publications just put stuff up there for the sake of it, and a lot of the times with queer stories, it is a little bit more exaggerated. It is made a little bit more dramatic, and I think that doesn't help our cause from breaking free from a system, that is stereotyping and stigmatizing us of, being who we are.
I want to go into your stereotyping because for me in the media, as a representation of someone, most of the time the media will have this person, tush, and that's the representation of the
for the rest of the community.
And because they are constantly there, then we get related and identified with that one section. That's a representation because maybe there's something similar, like, oh, but you've got that thing like that person, hey? And then, I'm like, no, we're worlds apart.
Yes.
For me, I want to try to understand how can we change that so that we don't necessarily have one or two people who represent an entire community. And how do we change that narrative? I just need to understand how can we be celebrated in different ways in terms of the representation that's out there. Because currently we only have two, for example. It's either this or it's that. How do we change that? and celebrate other stories and bring that to light as well in the media as forming the education for everyone else in South Africa.
I think it's also, sorry, I just want to add on to that. I think it's also, we need to acknowledge that not all people want to, talk out and want to be spoken out and want to be in publications and stuff. So we need to respect that aspect as well. But if we don't speak up,
how do we
change the narrative?
I think the narrative cannot be changed because people have their own things at the back of their minds. But what we can encourage is people to come out there and give us the stories that are inspiring. Not only stories that are just basic stories, like I had sex with this one and this happened. Those are not stories that build up our community.
Yeah.
Those are stories that are just supposed to be maybe on their social media. But then the other thing that people come in, they put things on social media. Social media has become a very big tool right now. Unlike newspapers and magazines, people turn into social media every time. Even myself, when I wake up, the first thing I check is my Facebook, my Instagram, and Twitter. So in those spaces, that is where lives are being destroyed. That we have so many people that are out there who have committed suicide and we don't know about it. Maybe something that I posted on my timeline.
Yeah, I think we need to be more, cautious and aware of stuff that we put on social media because
there's a huge responsibility.
most of the time you think you're a keyboard warrior and you're just on this side and you don't realize how it is affecting other people on the other side. I think it's also very important that we are aware that the minute that you post something on social media, it becomes public knowledge. Yes. And it becomes, I want to say like a free for all, but it is public domain. So people can do with that whatever they want. And most of the time, especially with queer stories or stuff that we post up, because of the community that people have created and perceptions in their minds, it usually goes towards a negative side. So we need to be a lot more conscious about what we put out there on social media.
And what responsibility do non-queer writers have when writing about queer stories or telling queer stories?
Non-queer writers have a responsibility to research and get informed on what they're going to write about. Because when you're writing about something, you really have to know about it. You just cannot just sit on your keyboard because you are trained as a writer and write what comes into your mind on what you think
is right.
But then without consulting the people that are involved. Nothing about us without us.
And you, Jazz?
Oh, it's me.
I
looked to see that. Well, mine was, I have, firstly, as well, in full agreement, I have absolutely nothing against online dating and those platforms. But mine was also in Cape Town, when I was living in Cape Town, still searching out there. And mine was crochet. I felt quite sad for myself that day. I was chatting to this guy and we ran with, and then I ended up driving to Camps Bay and they had this beautiful home and everything, whatever have you. And he was looking for companionship. And when I say companionship, like for the night.
Okay.
Only.
Okay.
And I was looking for marriage. And you must also understand this little Clara boy driving up to this beautiful house in Camps Bay. I saw myself making breakfast there every day. I saw the children. I saw the little children. You got in. This guy didn't even greet me properly. You literally said to me, take your clothes off. Anyway, here I was taking my clothes off.
Oh, no.
Yeah, and then, when we were done, it was almost like, thank you.
Wait, so here's my thing. This man didn't make it clear. Did he make it clear that it's a one-night situation?
No. Then we were chatting for a while, because you know how it is on Grindr, you're chatting, you're getting to know this person. I knew where he was from, I knew his family, and and why he was living in Cape Town in South Africa. And so when I got there, it was like, I was like, okay, here
Wow,
we go.
yeah.
Yeah, no, he's the one. He's the one.
I know we're laughing about this, but
It sucks.
you probably
this is-
felt so
was
stupid.
broken.
No,
I was
of course
broken.
not.
Yeah, that was broken. So that was my worst experience on Grindr.
The fact that you didn't get wed when you got there.
No. And it was, I think it was weird because it's like you're saying, it's a platform for us to communicate to different people, but some people just want what they want.
Yeah, but you must be clear from the
But
jump.
I was young. I
Aye,
was young.
Jody, I'm angry for
Everything
you.
happened when we were younger.
Yes,
Wiser and older now. We
wiser.
know.
Yeah.
Teens?
Oh, me too. I mean, you
She
know,
also just said thank you.
no, mine is actually hilarious. Okay, so I was on Tindles, and I was like, okay, I had come out of a long relationship, and my friends made a profile for me, and they were like, you gotta get out. And I was like, no. And then I went on Tinder, and I matched with the first person, and I was like, woo, and it goes matched, and I was like, wow.
The search is over.
Yeah. And then we started speaking, and I was in Durban at the time, and I was doing like a frisbee tournament. Guys, frisbee is a real competitive sport. No, for real. And I was there, and at the time I'd started a new job, and this is important. This was my first TV job, and it was airing at the time. Okay, this is important.
You were a face to be recognized.
Yeah, and so I messaged them, and they were like, "Who are you?" I'm like, "Actually, what are you?" And they were like, and then I was like, "Who are you?" And they're like, "Hey, I've just come back from California. I'm touring hockey, blah 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 blah." Everything seemed real.
Yeah.
So only because my best friend, who was with me at the time, was also doing this. Like they were touring, they were SA coach for hockey, blah blah blah. So eventually in the night, I'm like, listen, I'm going to leave Durban very soon, and I'm going to go back to Joburg. Maybe I'll see you. By the way, I'm on the show. Catch me at this time. And that's where we can kind of virtually meet. So it was so cutesy. And then they were like, okay, cool. I'm going to check your show. 6 a.m. in the morning when I'm waking up for the tournament, there's like paragraph. They're like, hey, yo, listen, I saw your show and I thought it was really cool. Listen, I'm not who I am. I'm not who you think I am. My name is so-and-so and so, blah, 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 blah. And everything I told you was real, blah, blah, blah. And in my heart, I'm like, because I believe them and I like them. And then I show my friend, and my friend's like, what's their name? Oh, she's on my hockey team. I coach this girl. I'm literally going there now.
Did you go?
No. I was like, no ways. And that was hilarious. We laughed about it. And then I was like, I'm never going online dating again. I called my mom. I'm like, Mom. And my mom's like, wow, they just mess up everything for everyone. Just mess up the fun. And that's
Is your mom from Forbes?
literally that's my voice for everyone. But that's what happened.
Jody. But you see, that's the thing as well with online platforms. It's like people, I think, sometimes create these. Jody, get it out of your system. I think people create these idealistic images of what they would really want to do, and then when push comes to shove, and they actually have to meet someone after, creating this whole world or illusion.
Can I just say, I saw them on Instagram. I was like, I would have swiped right anyway. I was like, what's going on?
Well, it's their loss.
Yeah.
It's very good of us to take note that there is a platform called the Yellow Dot Doctor, which is a platform where physicians and medical people in the industry can register because they go through certain desensitization training to be able to work with the queer community and specifically tend to their needs. Yeah. So there is that, but it's still long strides.
It is. I mean, we currently joined hands with local clinics to try and desensitize them. Again, from the point of entry from a security guard to the nurse, there needs to be that kind of safe space provision, so to speak. So with that, I don't know, I think the last time we were in Mpumalanga to try and talk to the district to say, let's, go into these clinic or health facilities and desensitize the nurses. Because again, there is a gap for me. I think there is a gap between a nurse that has completed their 5-year journey, like 15, 20 years ago to a nurse that has just completed it yesterday. So there's so much a huge gap that needs to be filled. So with the desensitization trainings and sessions, then we are slowly closing that gap.
I just think that what's coming to light here is the fact that I think what would be so important is that instead of us trying to change the narrative of people, like you said, have been doing this for 15 years and 20 years, but to make sure that there is someone at that facility who understands how to deal. So even if there's one person, and that's a fast tracking to that destination we are trying to discuss, that one person in every medical facility understands how to deal with a queer person and our challenges, and they are present on site. That could be a very good place to start then as well, knowing that, yes, desensitizing the experience from the get-go, from security, until I go and meet with that person, so that I am not necessarily just looking specifically for a queer place, but I can go to any medical, because my medical aid allows me to go anywhere. So with that privilege, can I also then have one person designated for this specific thing in those facilities? I think that could be a better way for us to fast track it as well, not only then from various cultural perspectives, but also for everyone to have access to an individual in a hospital. I'll bill you for that one. I'm watching you there, my friend.
I'm excited I am about it. Yeah.
This person is obviously a spokesperson for a community, but also we need to open it up because the community is so diverse.
Yes.
We cannot just have this fixated picture of what a Mr. Gay or a, whichever title holder should look like. We should open it up to everybody and let everybody be represented authentically.
But now that's your realization on this journey. But my question to you now is that the narrative that's being pushed out from the actual pageantry side? Because all of us, we all have the same narrative. We're all going to look and be like, this is the kind of guy that must represent the community as a Mr. Gay or Mr. World Gay, so, but the same narrative, is it also applied within the organizations?
I just want to add to you before you answer your question, if we look back at, let's say, for instance, the pageant that you competed in, people of color have never won. They always place first or second. This year we received the first person of color, but which only automatically happened because you stepped down. So I still feel like there is an integration problem.
Oh, absolutely.
Within the pageant scene.
So both of it is something that needs to be pushed in dialogue, because I personally don't think the current organization is pushing for reform. I don't think they're pushing for inclusivity. I think some of the current pageants in South Africa are looking for the cover model image. And that is one of the reasons I decided to step down, was I felt that my voice was not being heard as someone who wanted to be more for the community than just the cover boy. Because it's fine, I've got the abs, I've got the Instagram thing, I can do that. But that doesn't affect change. It doesn't represent the community. It doesn't represent the issues at large with integration and trans rights and representation on a bigger scale for countries. Because when we are talking about a Mr. Gay world, it means that it's bigger than just South Africa. You are representing an entire continent of Africa where it's still illegal in so many countries to be who you are, one of which was Namibia, where I campaigned actively last year as well, in leading their second Pride March as well. So to answer your question, no, I don't think that these organizations are pushing forward. And that's one of the big problems. And that ties in directly with what you said with integration. Because if we are not forced to be challenged, if there's no one speaking up against it, and if there's no one challenging these pageants and what these beauty standards are that we hold ourselves to,
but that
then it's never going to change.
Just before we move on, I just wanted to speak about, because then what do you think, in your experience and in your opinion, what do you think the aim is for these pageants?
I think at the moment, the aim is to have a beauty contest. And it unfortunately is measured by people who are not conscious of what's happening in the actual community. They're not conscious of what the actual challenges are in the community. They're not interested in the queer murder rate in South Africa, or body positivity or inclusivity, and that's the main problem. So when we talk about addressing the issue from grassroots level, it starts with A, people speaking out against current organizations, and B, maybe people stepping up to say that maybe we need a new pageant that is completely inclusive, that is not just based on beauty standards, but that actually looks for a representative. And maybe we should not call it a beauty pageant then, but ambassadorship, or something that's bigger than just the outer beauty of it.
I think for me, in referencing to this word that's also constantly, luring around, is the fact that what is the definition of beauty?
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying, in terms of this pageantry world? Because at the end of the day, there are these blockages, and we understand that this is the cover person that's going to be there. Yes, they're not knowledgeable in terms of our community, but there's also an aesthetic thing that comes into play here. And what is the definition of beauty in that? And yet again, this is what we faced with on a daily basis in our community. Like, do you look this way?
And that's the thing, we encourage people to embrace their own beauty.
Yes.
And we want people to be comfortable in the individuality, but on the other side, it's told you have to look like this.
There we go. And such
So-
a powerful platform, being the pageantry side of it all, that's where the difference comes in, because it's also, again, the media side of it all. And we're going, oh wow, that's what I should aspire to. That's what I should look to, But I mean, I'm not going to be a white male who's gay with a lot of muscles. You know, like that. That's never going to be something I'm going to fit into.
Jody, I see you like
Thank you so much, Shanae.
I think also a very big myth or stereotype that exists within the communities, and especially with heteronormative society, is that intersex people are not transgender. And I think that is something we need to be very vigilant and very aware about. I also wanted to ask you, what can we as a community do to bring more awareness to intersex individuals and to, pave the way forward and to make people more aware of what it is your community or the intersex community needs?
Yeah, I think, it's really important for intersex people to have allies, right? So experts estimate that about 2% of the population is intersex, right? But as intersex activists, we do dispute this because we think there are more intersex people, right? I think the 2% is just people that was based on data that they have, but they don't have data on all the intersex people, right?
Because I think a lot of people are still scared to talk about it and to come out because we fear of being treated differently.
And with so many variations, how does one eventually identify as intersex? Because it's not just to say it's an external thing, it's also an internal thing. And I think that's what's mind-blowing for you. You said there were 40 variants.
Yeah, there's more than 40 variations of how someone could be intersex. And, like they are born intersex, right? And sometimes they might not know, and they just, like I said, they discover later in life. But I think that the main thing is for the community is to just recognize that the problems that the intersex community is facing, right? So as we all know, when we speak about sexual orientation, gender identity and expression, and we know that gender identity is something that you choose for yourself, right? I decide my gender and that's based on me. The problem with intersex people is that a gender gets chosen for them. So a doctor will be like, we think this should be a girl, and they'll go to the parents, they'll say, let's make it a girl.
And this is where elective surgery comes
Yeah,
in.
yes.
That child who's born doesn't have a say whether they want to be female or male or whichever way they want to identify. Other people make the choices for them. And then later on in life, it might not be the right decision.
Yeah, because obviously you're going to go through puberty, and as intersex people, you don't know what's going to happen in your puberty. You don't know what's going to happen to your body. So many of times, I think the most, in 80% of cases, doctors decide it's a girl. I think that's probably just easier for them to operate, or the surgery that they have to do. But most of the time they will decide, it's a girl. So they would perform these surgeries on infants, right? An infant that is between 0 to 3 years old that knows nothing about, and also parents that knows nothing about. These surgeries, however, lead to multiple complications because you cannot just have one surgery. Like these, every year, every 5 years, you technically need to go back, and because things change, right? Like they have more information, and it's a lifelong journey of dealing with these surgeries that you shouldn't even have had in the first place, right? So that's one thing that intersex people face, like, a gender gets chosen for them. The problem then is as they develop and they go to puberty and their bodies are developing differently, and now they have this identity that was chosen for them, and now they look a complete different person to the identity. Now they have a problem with getting legal gender recognition. So basically the system decides, we will choose a gender for you, but now you have come into your gender as to who you are. Now you have to go back to the system to prove I am what I say I am, right? And
It works completely against each other.
yeah, so they choose a gender for you, but now when you come and say, well, this is not my gender, I did not choose this, you chose this for me, now I have a problem with getting my legal gender recognition. Now the system tells you that, no, you now have to prove that you are this woman or this man or whoever that you say you are. Now you have to go through all this pathologizing procedures of getting letters from doctors, from psychologists, from the community to say who you are.
Just to exist. Just to exist.
To exist, yeah. And then the third issue is just the eraser and the isolation. Like many intersex people will not speak about being intersex because there's a lot of shame. And the shame doesn't come from intersex people, it comes from society. It comes from being marginalized, it comes from being isolated, and it comes from trying to be erased, from the system. So the moment doctors do these surgeries, they don't tell you there's other people like you. They don't tell you, well, there's many variants, right? So you live your entire life growing up and thinking
it's just
I am the
you.
only one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm the only one. And like you're looking at yourself, you're looking at your friends, your colleagues, and you're like, I'm very different from other people. And you're thinking you are the only one. It's only when you discover that, wow, there's actually more intersex people out there, that's when you can come into your own and realize that, well, I'm not alone. There are people like me, on this earth, but you just don't know. So now you're dealing with all of this, right? You're dealing with the unconsensual surgery. You're dealing with not having your legal gender recognition. So that means you can't open a bank account, right? You can't find job. You can't find employment. Like intersex people are unemployed.
And that shouldn't even be a question or a factor in any
Those
of
are
that.
basic rights. We're
Exactly.
discussing right now.
Yeah, basic rights.
I wanna move towards the end of this episode, and I wanna ask you, Tina, you have a question?
I do. Before every episode, I speak to my girlfriend. I tell her who we're gonna have on WQMD, and I always ask her, like, what would you ask, so and so. And I said, what's the one question you want to ask Bev? And she said, what is the role of love in your revolutionary politics? And then I was like, I mean,
Snaps.
what? Yeah. So, if you wouldn't mind.
Well, yeah.
What is the role of love in your revolution?
Love is at the center of every revolution. That's the core of a revolution, isn't it? The love of self, the love of your people. I'm a big follower of, Biko consciousness, which obviously all the other revolutionaries kind of, step in there. When Che Guevara said, I'm a romantic, when all the other revolutionaries say the same thing. You're a romantic. There's a lot of love and romance in wanting to fight and put your body on the line for yourself and for your people. Love is at the center. And because I'm also somebody, I'm deeply spiritual. Religion is a construct that I do not subscribe to, but I'm still a follower of the Christ, whose every single message that has ever come from the Christ is about love. Love is at the center of everything I do. I used to do a lot coming from a place of anger. And you could see it in my rah-rah, whenever I took podiums and whenever I did interviews, I'd come from a place of deep-seated anger. You know, anger at the injustice, anger at how we're treated, especially as the feminine. The feminine is being denigrated, and we know what that means, you know, that, you know, the masculinity is being threatened. I got that. And so I would always be coming from a place of anger. But anger burns us. Anger burns you who holds
destroys
it
you.
more than it does. Like, people don't care. They don't give a fuck. And here I am walking around burning and dying and getting acid reflux, you know, and getting migraines, and all because you're walking around in a ball of anger. I got to a place where I knew I had to put that down and go back to where this began in the first place, which is a place of love. Love replenishes. Love, you grow with love. Love restores. And so now I come from a place of love for my people. I don't even care about them anymore. I think that's why, you know, when we're workshopping the Baptist Foundation, which we established last year and just registered, we are about us, about positive images of us, about fighting, yes, against all the negativity that's going on in the media, but really we want to make stories for us about us. We want to encourage us to show each other and ourselves, because when we reflect back, when we reflect each other from a place of love, then we heal.
Yes.
You know, and so great question, and thank you for the question, because yes, everything I do is now coming from a place of love for me and love for us.
You are such an inspirational individual, and I'm just going to say it as it is. Like, I don't think we'd be sitting here having these conversations if it weren't for your bravery back in the day that has led us to this point. And the last question that I want to ask you is, having gone through all of that during the oppression and into the new age, if you can put it that way, what is your wish for the queer community in South Africa for the future?
I just want us to see ourselves. I really do. I think we right now, a lot of our hurt and anger and pain and angst, our mental health issues, our substance abuse issues, there's a lot of abuse amongst us, there's a lot of discrimination amongst us, violence within our relationship, all stems from a place of self-hate, because we've been told so many times that we should not exist, that we do not belong. I would like us to see ourselves as like we're meant to be here. I really believe that we are the balance that the world needs. Right now, I believe that toxic masculinity is killing not just people, but the world, the earth. We're drilling, we're bombing, all for the sake of some machismo that comes out of nowhere. It's all bullshit. We are here to balance. We are the balance. Spirit is no gender. God is not a gender. I believe I'm here to preach that message, that God is not a gender. God is not a race. God is a spirit. And we are that spirit. We embody that spirit that is neither gender nor race, none of the constructs. I just wish we could see that. I wish we could see our beauty. Because once we see our beauty, then we stop hurting each other so much. Then we stop hurting ourselves.
So we all had to start somewhere with drag. So what advice would you give to someone that is considering, you know, venturing into the realms of drag?
So from my point of view, I would say go in with an open heart. Be friendly. Don't look at RuPaul's Drag Race and think you can do it. Go and speak to other queens. We are here for you. We are here to give you advice. And in the end of the day, just walk in with an open heart and do you. Just do you, and you will be fine.
Yeah, I think that's really good advice. I think also just be authentic to who you are. You don't have to be able to do a backflip to be doing drag. Like, I personally have psoriatic arthritis. I can't move like that, but I do what's authentic to me. And I think that's the lesson I learned the most, is you're not going to be a good performer if you're not being who you are and who you want to be and doing what you think is fun. Because Otherwise, you're just doing it for someone else and it doesn't make it worth it.
Yeah, I fully agree with both of you. And the advice I would give an up-and-coming drag queen is tell her, look at RuPaul's Drag Race. Look at the UK Drag Race. Everyone is different and unique in their own way. What is your uniqueness that you bring into a table? You can't be copy-paste RuPaul. Be your authentic self. So I fully agree. Be
And
your
it's a
authentic
journey.
self.
It's not going to happen overnight. I mean, I've been doing it for 14 years. I don't want to give away your age.
25 years.
25. I think you're like the newbie.
Yeah, I'm like
amongst
doing
us.
it professionally now 2 years, but we all started somewhere.
We all started somewhere.
And I've been doing it, I think, about 4 years now.
4 years. And the thing is, you start with what you have.
Yeah.
It's about taking that first step. And drag is ever growing. It's ever evolving and becoming, more and better and bigger. And I think we should really harness a culture of not trying to compete with fellow drag queens, because some of them come from a lot more privilege. Some of them, have access to a lot more materials and dresses and all those type of things. So you need to do with what you have. I think that's the best advice that I can give anyone. So before we go, I have one last question for you guys. So we've all created these fabulous personas, Kitana, Carla, and Nikki. But what quality do you think your drag possesses that you, as your normal self, if I can put it in inverted commas, don't have?
I would say confidence. In drag, I feel like the world is my oyster. I've got the universe in my hand. I'm very self-absorbed in drag, very vain. And as a guy, I'm very quiet, reserved, and I just go about my business. Everyone else, should just back away. So I tend to kind of blend the two together in certain aspects when needed. I can be a Karen or a Ben. So that persona, that part of me is the only part that's joint, can I say, is I can be very difficult.
Carla?
I'd say also confidence for me. Drag's really helped me with my confidence, but out of drag, I tend to want to blend in a bit more. I mean, I have purple hair under this wig. I definitely don't blend in, but sort of be a little bit more understated. Whereas in drag, I feel like I could do anything. Like, bring it at me and I will do it and I will do it well. Whereas out of drag, I doubt myself a lot. And I think that would also be for me, like confidence would be a huge thing I lack in my everyday life.
Energy. I connect with people so good when I'm in drag. Like, even as a boy, I do connect with people, but not on a certain level as now in drag. Like, I feel, I should say Nikki is more of a mom. Like, I feel like a mom. I just want to hug everyone. And, I'm so lovable when I'm in drag. I just want to help everyone. You can ask the queens. Every time we do a show, it's me, makeup brush. I'm busy. I'm busy helping everyone. I just want to help and love people.
That's beautiful. Yeah, I think the same for me. It's confidence and bravery. Like, I feel when I'm wearing my drag, like I'm wearing a shield. Like, I feel invincible. I feel like I can conquer the world in my 6-inch heels, and just there's nobody that can stand in my way. And I think that's the ultimate power of drag, is, allowing us to express ourselves through what we've created, and then to try and take that we've created and put it back into our own lives. And it's a very big, I think, a coping mechanism for a lot of us, especially with what is happening in the world. I think drag it's super powerful, and I really hope that the South African community continues to grow and embrace and evolve, and that we can become a very close-knit family and inclusive and help and guide each other. Thank you so much for coming onto the couch. I really appreciate it. And I have the world of respect for all of you, and I wish you well.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having us.
And just like in general, I think a lot of people struggle, like if someone addresses you wrong, what is the right thing to do? What is the comfortable thing to do to make someone else feel comfortable after that. Because I know that if someone addresses me wrong once I have told them, it's okay to correct yourself, and then we continue with the conversation. It doesn't have to be awkward. What do you guys think?
You want to go first?
Yeah, of course. I personally, I personally think don't make it a big deal.
Okay.
Just be like, so sorry, move on.
Let's move on.
Yes, use the correct pronoun, because as soon as you start making it a thing, it's going to become a thing, and then it's a bit shit for everyone. So just correct yourself, move on. If you make the mistake again, cool, try to move on. 3 times, 4 times, you're not listening. Yeah, hey, let's sit down. Oh, what is happening? Yeah, so I think don't make it a big deal, just move on from that. What do you feel?
I feel there's a fine line between really making a mistake and disregarding what I would like you to do. So there are people that will literally mispronounce, what do you say? What's the English word? Mispronounce on purpose, you know? And there are people that really, like, it takes time for them to learn. And I think for me, it's just correcting people and keep on teaching people. But when it gets to a point where you can see this person is just disregarding how you feel, again, that's okay. As in, we have to have like a chat. What's happening? Why are you doing this? Are you doing this on purpose? What's happening? I understand that there are people that do feel uncomfortable in certain situations, but can we also address that? Can we have a conversation about that? And I always say that having dialogue always helps, and to actually understand where this person is coming from. Right. But also within that, I also just putting energy into something that there's nothing that's going to come from it. For me, rather just take yourself out of that situation. Basically.
So to both of you, when you wake up in the morning and you decide that this is the energy, you know, that you are going to be using for that day, and this is how you want to be known, do you have a safe space when you go out of your home and you get to be that for the day?
It was just a look. I personally used to not have that. My family is very accepting. My mother is the most incredible woman ever. My dad used to wear dresses before he passed. It was everything. But before that, I kind of hung around people who weren't as supportive and who didn't want to learn and who didn't want to educate themselves. And I just cut them off. It's the easiest way to do that. It's the unfortunate thing because you still love them, but they're being shit.
Shit humans,
like you said. So you've kind of just got to create your own space, and I've crafted that now. And when I get to wake up and wear my negligee and have a ciggy and a breakfast, and my housemates don't, they're like, okay, morning doll, how are you? But you kind of craft your own safe space and your support system, and actually a lot of it is other queer and queer affirming people, because we have to create our own safe space and use our platform and our friendship and our support to create more safe spaces and carry on that legacy of safety. That sounds like a lot, eh? But I personally wake up in the morning and I'm like, I'm gonna look hot in jeans today. And then I'm gonna wear a little crop top, and then it's gonna be stunning. And then some days I'm like, I'm gonna wear the shortest skirt I have, my fuck me pumps, and then that's gonna be the day. That's gonna be what we're doing today. And everyone just has to deal with it. And that's the thing. It's actually surprising that not a lot of people give a shit. People don't, I'm so sorry. You have leg hair and a penis. Why are you wearing a skirt? People don't really give a shit. Some people do, and then there are the people who really do and go out of their way to make sure that
you know that they do.
You know that, and that's the unfortunate thing, because especially in our country, people tend to get aggressive with that and very, very vocal. But you kind of know what those spaces are that you can't do that in.
Okay.
Ek gaan nie Presley's toe gaan in my kort rompie nie.
Yes.
Want ek gaan gebliksem word. But I can go to other safe spaces and queer affirming spaces, or even straight hangouts. I can go to ball breakers in my tiny skirt and no one's gonna give a shit because everyone's drunk. But yes, you kind of just craft and learn and educate yourself on where can I fully be myself and where do I kind of have to organize what it looks like? Where do I need to be a cisgendered male who use he, him pronouns? We won't talk about it. This is just what we're doing. And where can I be fluid? Where can I be safe and supported? How do you feel?
And it sucks that we need to play into that, but unfortunately we do live in South Africa, and I have had instances where I've been attacked for just being myself. So I mean, I have scars right back, but but for me it hasn't always been safe. Because also I'm from a village, and you know how patriarchal that can be, like the society can be. So I've always had to play into being indoor and stuff like that. So until I came to Joburg, where I thought I would be afforded the space to just be, wasn't the case. I still, like, it's like going to the taxi rank. I know it's a thing. I remember this one time, this taxi driver would not even speak to me because of the way I was dressed and how I was expressing myself at the time. So now, as much as I know that it's not as safe as I would like it to be, but I'm very intentional of living. One thing I told myself, I'm not as fearful as I used to be, and I'm not gonna dumb myself down or not be myself because of people. And I think that's why going back to those teachable moments, but again, making the assumption that people want to learn is very dangerous, because you could literally just be walking down the street being yourself and then get attacked. You try to teach this person, they decide to kill you. So, but I'm very intentional about finding myself in safe spaces, and again, queer affirming spaces, so that I do. But I don't even think about it. Like when I wake up, it's not like I wake up and today I'm gonna be this tomorrow, or today I'm wearing this. I really can't explain it. It's just an energy. When I wake up, I'm like, okay, let's put this on because I feel like this. And then maybe 2 hours down the line, okay, I'm going back to being butch. And then 2 hours later, I'm wearing a frock again. So I don't even think about it. It just happens. It's just who I am. And I think that's what people need to understand. It's not like sit down in a boardroom and then, okay, what's going to happen now for this week? This is what I'm going to be. This is what I'm going to do. It's literally just you waking up and being yourself. If that makes sense.